context, a little perspective of some of just the amazing and awesome accomplishments that we can all achieve.
Absolutely. We'll watch your coverage for the next hour. This isn't done yet. We'll see how they come out of this, but amazing stuff. All right, Blake, take it away.
Connell, thank you. Our coverage continues right here on NewsNation as those two stranded NASA astronauts just splashing down off the coast of Florida. And absolutely marvelous. You heard them say bluebird kind of day there on the western parts of the state of Florida, and a surreal sight and scene as we continue to watch live here on NewsNation. It was an out-of-this-world drama that should have lasted a little more than a week, but spanned more than 9 months. Many questions, and the smartest minds in the world trying to figure out how to get the two down. We listen in to SpaceX and NASA here briefly.
The teams have been ready and waiting about 3 nautical miles away, so it's going to take them about 30 minutes or so to make their way to...
SpaceX Freedom, pretty sure we're in stable 1.
Copy, stable 1. We see the same.
It's going to take about 30 minutes for the recovery team to make their way over to Nick, Sunny, Butch, and Alexander, who are still seated and secured inside that Dragon spacecraft there on your screen. Incredible views there of that thermal protection system, or TPS.
Our coverage continues here on NewsNation. Sunny Williams and Butch Wilmore back here on planet Earth. This was a 9-month drama to eventually get these two back at home. Sunny Williams, 59 years old, born in Ohio, raised in Needham, Massachusetts, a graduate of the U.S. Naval Academy, got her master's from Florida Institute of Technology, first flew to the International Space Station in 2006. April 2007, she ran a marathon up there, 4 hours and 24 minutes, went back to the space station in 2012. She started working for Boeing and SpaceX to try to get the commercial flights up to the International Space Station in 2015. Butch Wilmore, 62 years old, born in Tennessee, currently lives in Houston, Texas, a graduate of Tennessee Technological University. He was the captain of the football team there, a master's from the University of Tennessee, a naval officer who's actually flown over the skies of Iraq. 2009, he piloted the Space Shuttle Atlantis to the International Space Station. He returned back there in 2014, and as we watch the boats there approach that SpaceX capsule, charred on the outside, as you can see. That hatch will soon open up. You heard them there say in the next 30 minutes or so, and that will give us our first visual of the 4 astronauts inside, but really Butch and Sunny, who we have been waiting for some 9 months now. Again, listening to SpaceX, and we'll join our Brian Enton here in moments.
Residing in and or around the Draco thruster nozzles or outlets. The hypergolic fuel, which is necessary for on-orbit burns to maneuver the spacecraft. Unfortunately, those hypergolics are unable to be breathed. They are toxic, and so this team here is doing those initial safety checks to make sure that it is safe for the rest of the recovery team.
So as we watch here and listen along to the pros, to the experts who have been orchestrating this for months, as you might imagine. I'm joined now by Brian Enton, NewsNation senior national correspondent. Joining me as well, Colonel Bill MacArthur, former NASA astronaut, watching this alongside me. Hello, good evening. Welcome to Washington, though our eyes are off the coast of Florida. I'm Blake Berman. This is The Hill on NewsNation. Thanks for being with us tonight. Colonel MacArthur, let's start with you. What are we watching right now, and really sort of what are we going to be looking for here in the upcoming moments?
Well, hi, Blake. It's a pleasure to join you. I'm just thrilled, as are we all, to see Sunny and Butch back. And, of course, I think really what you see is what you get. The vehicle is stable. It's floating. The first recovery boats have arrived there. And so the crew's inside. I'm sure they're relaxing. They've probably released their harnesses to get a little more freedom. And they're just waiting to be towed to the recovery ship whereupon the Dragon capsule will be lifted up, and then the crew of the SpaceX Crew 9 will then egress the vehicle.
It is truly stunning, Colonel, watching this with the boats there in moments. The 4K camera or the HD camera, whatever it is, on top of it, bringing us live these images. And in a moment here, or I guess probably about 20 minutes or so, we're going to see the hatch open, and we're going to get sort of our first visual of these two. What is it like for them right now? And I should note, there's 4 astronauts in there, but of course, the 2 that have been stuck up in space, or were, for 9 months. Now that they're back on planet Earth with the rest of us Earthlings, what are they feeling right now?
I think they're feeling a sense of relief. We sometimes lose sight of how risky entry itself is. You mentioned earlier the charred appearance of the spacecraft. I mean, it's experienced temperatures in the neighborhood of 3,000 degrees. That charring is all in the thermal protection system on the vehicle. And so entry carries almost as much risk as the ascent does. And so I think a lot of it is just the pressure's off. They're now relaxed. They're in communication. They know the vehicle's safe. They know that the recovery ships, the recovery boats are right there. And so I think they're relaxing. They're probably joking with each other and just enjoying the moment.
Yeah, joking with each other. 4 astronauts return to space and walk into a bar, right? Whatever they're saying inside that capsule right now. Our Brian Enton is live in South Florida as well. Brian, man, this has got to be relief for the many folks there. I mean, you think about your job on an average day, like, how was work today? I had this problem. How am I going to deal with it? It was nothing compared to this thing.
This is so cool, Blake. You said it. I mean, this is like watching a movie. I had chills. I still have chills when Dragon splashed down. To think that they were up there for 286 days, in a sense stranded, that they are now back home right off the coast of Florida. And the visuals are just so beautiful. What's going to happen now is these go boats first go out there. They're doing safety checks on the capsule, and you can see in the distance, Blake, there is a ship that's getting closer and closer. That will actually pull up right next to the capsule. They've got a crane on the back of the ship that will actually lift the Dragon up onto the deck of the ship. We're going to watch all of this happen probably in the next 40 minutes. The whole process takes an hour, but we're already into that hour. So the crane will lift the capsule up onto the ship. They'll bring it onto the ship. Once it's on the ship, that's when they open the door, and that's when they'll bring the astronauts out. And you might remember, like, when we were younger and you would see the space shuttle land here in Florida, you would see the astronauts walk down the stairs, just walk right off. That's not going to happen in the situation. Space shuttle, they were up for maybe a week or two. These astronauts were up there for 286 days, so they may have issues walking. Likely what we're going to see is almost like a stretchers pull up right near the door, and they'll actually sort of pull them out to make sure they're okay, to make sure they can actually stand up.
Brian, it was remarkable because they basically went from the west coast of Mexico to the west coast of Florida in 4 minutes. They went from 17,000 miles per hour to basically skydiving. Like all of a sudden, in a moment's notice. You got beautiful weather there behind you in Florida. It shocks me. You know this. You live there. I've spent probably half my life there, close to it. Just how calm the waters are there right now off the west coast. They got a beautiful day there for this, and they needed it.
Yeah, and that's all by design. I mean, they up until just a couple of hours before touchdown, they can actually change things. They can change the location of touchdown. There's so much precision to this. I mean, they told us yesterday this was going to happen at 5:57, and it happened exactly at 5:57. There are certain touchdown zones on the East Coast that they could have diverted to because of weather. There's a couple of touchdown zones on the West Coast where they ended up, but it's all by design. I mean, they made sure the weather was going to be just perfect for this.
All right. Brian, stand by. I know Colonel MacArthur is with us as well. David Newman, served as NASA's deputy administrator from 2015 to 2017. She's the director of MIT's Media Lab with us as well. David, thanks for being with us tonight. As you watch this, smiles, of course, and who wouldn't have any right now? From your perspective as an expert, what are you watching for right now? When you look at this, what are you noticing? What are you keeping your eye on?
Well, thanks so much. Relief and joy. Our astronauts are safe. Great to have them home. So I'm just looking at, again, the next steps. Let them relax. It was just that they're celebrating and happy now. Safety first. It's always safety first with NASA, with SpaceX. So getting them out of the capsule. They've been there a long time, so it needs to go slow. Be real intentional. They'll be talking and enjoying, but they have to readapt to 1G, the 1G of Earth. So just kind of slow and steady. No big movements, and checking them out, making sure their vitals are all good, and they're gonna have a lot of stories to tell. And most importantly, they weren't stranded up on space station. That's home. That's home for these astronauts. They were
stranded up there. They didn't expect to be up there for 9 months.
Yeah, they're doing science. I mean, these are serious people. That's what we do at NASA. So, they're doing science and technology, like 250 experiments each. So they maximized every day they had up there.
So let's keep these live pictures up, Dr. Newman. You know this, but for those watching here on NewsNation, this was sort of the timeline of this over the last 6 years or so. Initially, this was the Boeing Starliner that went up. In 2019, the first test flight of it actually failed to reach the International Space Station. There were some software issues. There were some glitches. Fast forward to 2022, the second uncrewed test flight successfully reached and docked with the International Space Station. So last summer, June 5th, 2024, it launches with the astronauts on it, 2 of them. June 6th, it docked. But on the second attempt, 5 of the 28 thrusters malfunctioned. So then a couple weeks later, on June 18th, their return was pushed back to try to troubleshoot the issue. There were some helium leaks as well, as you know. Then we go to the end of the summer, August 24th. NASA said Starliner was coming back, but without the astronauts. It returned on September the 7th without the crew. So on September 28th, Crew 9 launched via SpaceX 9. And then November 12th, Sunny Williams, there were questions about whether or not she was facing a health crisis or not. She said she was not. December 17th, NASA said that the 2 were staying until March 2025. And then finally, March 14th, Crew 10 launches to relieve Crew 9. And then we just see them there floating around in the ocean and expected to be coming out of that hatch momentarily. As I sort of tick through that, what stands out to you, Dr. Newman, and sort of what we take away from all this?
Just getting them home safe. Sonny, Butch, Nick, Alexander's with them. Welcome home. This is just phenomenal. Again, we're going to hear about their great mission up to the ISS. It's serious. You don't breathe until we get with safe launches. Then we can start breathing again, and then. It's great when you're in space. That's probably the fun part. And then again, just getting everybody home safe, getting everyone home safe. And so I can breathe again with you. Now we can smile. I can't wait. I want to see them. I'm watching it live with you. So just can't wait to see them. But I know that they're safe in there. So again, this is a great day.
Colonel, is Colonel MacArthur still with us?
Yes, I am.
Hope he is. So, and you've just been, and Brian Enton with us as well. Bill MacArthur, former NASA astronaut, 6:13 here on the East Coast. This touchdown at 5:57. I say touchdown, splashdown. So it's been about 16 minutes that they've been bobbing out there in the Gulf of America, and probably about 20 minutes or so, or maybe a little bit longer than that, since they have returned. To what life is like here on planet Earth. What are they going through right now?
Well, again, Blake, I think right now they're just waiting. They're trying to get comfortable. You take your gloves off, make sure your visors are open. I think they're just relaxing. Maybe they undoubtedly have some beverages, and so they're trying to stay hydrated because a big issue right after people return from long-duration flight. And let's not forget that Nick and Sasha Alexander have been up there for over 200 days themselves. And so it's, as Brian mentioned, space shuttle flights were pretty short. My longest was 14 days. And so absolutely, you bow down the stairs, kick the tires, and walk around the vehicle. You can't do that after having been weightless for 200 days. Plus, you can experience something called postural hypotension. You stand up, your body, your cardiovascular system doesn't respond the way it normally would, and you become lightheaded, and that can be kind of embarrassing if you actually fall down or faint.
Right.
So we don't even allow space explorers to attempt to walk after a long-duration space flight. And I have no doubt the crew's in there now trying to maintain fully hydrated so they can maintain adequate blood volume and avoid getting that lightheadedness.
It occurs to me, Bill, as I sit here and I talk to a former NASA astronaut, watching a basically rescue of 2 astronauts who were on the International Space Station just as of yesterday and Splashdown essentially precisely in the Gulf of America, basically to the exact second, with all of this orchestrated, that there were probably a lot of really smart people working on this thing. And they made this look a lot easier than it most likely was. Can you sort of characterize, just in layman's terms, how hard this actually is to pull off something that we are witnessing right now?
Well, Blake, the laws of nature are pretty darn powerful, and they are not subject to amendment at the will of legislative bodies. And so it really relates to a good understanding of physics. And so why did they deorbit when they did? Well, they deorbited when their orbital track was actually going to pass right over the intended landing site. Because when we talk about 17,000 plus miles per hour, you really can't deviate your trajectory left or right very much. And so it's very much a matter of timing, understanding the nature of the atmosphere and the velocity and the deceleration that the vehicle will experience.
Yeah.
Now, the vehicle is able to modify its trajectory a little bit. It isn't coming in just like a bullet. And so by modifying that the trajectory, the computers on board the Dragon are able to very precisely target the intended landing site.
I guess in short, it's rocket science, right? And that's what we saw. But let me tap into you here for a second, because we see an individual, one of the I don't know if rescue crews is the right term, but clearly one of the folks that are gonna help these astronauts. We see them up at the top as the camera pulls out, but sort of climbing up onto the capsule there. What are they doing at this moment? Are they communicating word for word, or what's going on there?
Well, if you notice, they're getting very, very close to the recovery ship. And so, of course, they're going to have to attach lifting shackles, lifting slings to the vehicle to actually be able to lift it onto the aft deck. And so that really is very much a manual task. And so they have to put one of the recovery crew members there to actually, when the spacecraft is close enough, they can then attach it. They will reel it in and then lift it up onto the aft deck.
By
the way, you talk about the marvelous video.
By the way, I just want to let me pause you. This is surreal. Those are dolphins swimming by the capsule. If you've ever lived in South Florida, you see this sight all the time. You'll be by the water and say, man, this is a benefit of being in the Sunshine State. Never could you imagine this. That capsule out there in the Gulf of America, and if you look closely enough, dolphins seemingly want to take in a little bit of the show as well. Remarkable. Let's listen into SpaceX real quick.
Like a spider monkey pose. We can see that individual now standing in the bucket where the main parachutes were stored while Dragon was on orbit. Obviously, those main parachutes were utilized for Splashdown today. They were deployed and cut from the Dragon capsule, and one of the other fast boats of the recovery team working to pull those out of the water. Now, the recovery team member that is there working on top of the Dragon capsule, earlier we saw that person performing safety checks. Now we can see some harnessing being placed around the capsule. This harnessing is what will be used to lift the Dragon capsule out of the water and onto the recovery vessel. Wow, we got a cute little pod of dolphins. It wasn't just one or two.
I think they just recognized what we saw as well. Dr. David Newman, the former deputy director of NASA. Man, talk about a remarkable scene, Doctor.
Oh, I love seeing those dolphins. What a welcome home. Again, they know those dolphins are smart. They know that they landed. I bet you they didn't know our astronauts are in there and giving them a welcome. They're going to be so excited when they get out of the capsule, get to see their families again, all their loved ones, and back to their muscles and bones. They have to go real slow. Again, their balance won't be up. They have to readapt to Earth. They have to readapt to one gravity after so many days up on the space station.
Hang around to you both if you can. We would appreciate it. I want to get to our Brian Enton real quick at Kennedy Space Center. Brian, it appears as if we're moments away until the hatch opening up and getting our first visual of these two astronauts, Butch Wilmore and Sonny Williams.
Yeah, I still can't get over the dolphins, Blake. I'm not
remarkable.
sure. I've watched a lot of these. I think there's been 16, I think, or so of these splashdowns. I've watched a bunch. I cannot believe there's a group of dolphins, a pod of dolphins, right, like exploring the Dragon. They're just surrounding it. It's breathtaking to watch. But you mentioned that they've now got ropes connected. That's what those divers and those initial crews that were climbing up on the capsule were doing. They were connecting those ropes and cords, and now they're going to pull the capsule closer to the ship, and then you'll see they'll use a crane to pull it up onto the platform, lower it down, and that's when we'll finally see the door open, Blake.
Brian, Doctor, Colonel, hang with me if you can. To our viewers watching us here on NewsNation, it is stunning, it is remarkable, and in a way, not in a way, it truly is historic what happened to these astronauts and what we are witnessing now. We believe the hatch is going to be opening up here soon. So what we want to do is sneak in a very quick commercial break. Stay with us here on NewsNation. We'll see you on the other side.
For the acute treatment of migraine with or without aura in adults, Nurtec ODT can provide relief in 2 hours, which can last up to 2 days. Don't take if allergic to Nurtec ODT. Allergic reactions can occur even days after use, like trouble breathing and rash. Get help if you have trouble breathing, swelling of the face, mouth, tongue, or throat. Common side effect is nausea. Ask your doctor about Nurtec ODT.
If you watch cable news, you've got a lot of people who are willing to cheerlead for one side or the other side. The people we're hiring at NewsNation are personally invested in holding both sides to account, of asking the tough questions, but being fair to both sides.
Our coverage continues here on NewsNation. The SpaceX capsule now is just about on board. The vessel that has been there side by side accompanying Splashdown. And once that happens, we believe the hatch opens and we get our first visual of these two astronauts that have been stuck in space or were in space for 9 months. Their initial mission was supposed to be 8 days. There were a whole lot of issues and troubles, a whole lot of questions of how to get Butch Wilmore and Sonny Williams back home. Tonight, as we reach 6:30 here on the East Coast, 6:30 in Tallahassee, Florida, a spot that's known for state politics and a little bit of football. Today, we get a bit of history with NASA, SpaceX, and these astronauts. Bill MacArthur, former NASA astronaut, Dr. David Newman, who was the deputy director over at NASA at one point in time, Brian Enton with me as we've been watching this. Colonel MacArthur, This is touching down there on that recovery ship. It's about to be fully upright, and then comes the moment. Is that the cadence here?
Well, Blake, there are a couple of things they'll do. You'll see some people in protective gear go up. They're going to once again check the vehicle to make sure there's no residual hypergolic propellants around. We use hydrazine and nitrogen tetroxide as a propellant because they combust when they just mix with each other. You don't need a spark plug. It's very reliable, but they are also very, very toxic. And so we absolutely don't want the crew to come out and immediately be exposed to hazardous gases. So there'll be a little bit of checking to make sure everything's safe. Then when they're convinced that the area is clear, they'll open the hatch and the crew egress will begin.
How are they seated right now, Colonel MacArthur? Are they sort of in a what we would think of as a standing position, or how are they right now? That looks like. No, I know they're not actually standing, but as we look at that capsule, if we could see inside right now from this point of view that we are all watching, what would we see?
You would see that they're almost lying down. Their seats are tilted very far back. There's sort of a two up in the center and then two seats slightly further back on the left and right. And so, of course, Nick and Sasha will be up front as the Dragon commander and pilot. And then Sonny and Butch will be a little bit further back. I would guess that Nick and Sasha will egress first, but we'll see.
Has everything, as it's 6:30 here on the East Coast, if you're joining us tonight here on NewsNation, we continue our breaking news of this capsule returning back to planet Earth. 4 astronauts inside, but of course one of the big story here is the 2 who were stranded up there at the International Space Station, or at least they were supposed to be there, Butch Wilmore and Sonny Williams, for about 8 days. They were there for more than 9 months after a host of issues. They went up in a Boeing capsule, or in a Boeing vessel, I guess, came down in a SpaceX one, and NASA trying to figure it all out in between. It seems like for a story that had a whole lot of questions, correct me if I'm wrong, Colonel, the last hour or so, 30 minutes or so, has gone according to plan.
Just like with the Soyuz.
Well, Blake, really things have gone to plan ever since the decision was made to bring Sonny and Butch back as part of SpaceX Crew 9.
And that was December, right? December of last year.
Well, I think it was I think it may have been a little bit earlier than that. But still, months and months, it was, as a matter of fact, that decision was made even before the SpaceX Crew 9 launched, because the decision had been made to take 2 of the crew members off so that there would be seats for Butch and Sonny to return. And so, again, once that decision was made, things have gone pretty much according to plan.
Let's listen into SpaceX real quick as they give us a little play-by-play as we count down to the hatch out.
Where the nose cone is now closed, that's the hatch that they actually utilize to go ahead and get inside the International Space Station. So as we get a little closer to that hatch opening procedure, you might start to see more individuals come into frame for some of that support. The ship has a maximum capacity of a little over 40 people on board, and it takes a variety of different roles, as we've discussed, to support. Also on board is the chief of the astronaut office for NASA, that's Joe Acaba.
Let me bring in Dr. David Newman here, former deputy director of NASA from 2015 to 2016. Doctor, we're sort of getting the play-by-play there from the folks behind the operation. Right now, as you are watching this, what goes behind this moment?
The Dragon spacecraft.
So they're in communication with them. Everyone's, in place. Again, they'll do a slow egress to maybe getting out of the, they're in seats, as was explained, kind of lying back basically in seats. So getting them unstrapped, getting them in, transferring them. And they might roll them out. We'll have to see. They probably won't be, walking out on their own accord yet. Just take it slow, take it safe. We have them home, and they're going to have to readapt to 1G. So, we don't orthostatic intolerance. They'll explain that a little bit. They'll be a little bit lightheaded again. Gravity is something when you haven't been in gravity for over 260 days. So just readapting. It's going to take a week or two. It takes a month until you really get your motor control back. So just slow adaptation now, hours, minutes, and hours that they're home. Just taking it easy and slow. They'll be great. They'll be walking and talking, and just taking it slow and easy.
When you're sick, you get a little chicken soup, maybe some Gatorade and some Tylenol when your body doesn't feel well, right? You start there and then try to figure it out. When they get out of there, I know they're going to be dehydrated.
Along with Nick.
What happens next? Is it water? Do they food? How does all that work?
Right now. Yeah, they're hydrating right now. So they're drinking liquids. They're hydrating to not get dehydrated. So they're loading up on liquids now. A little, sodium, salt, things like that. Get some electrolytes in them, and then they're going to want some real fresh food. they're going to want their favorite food because space food's tolerable.
Can you give it to them right away, or how long does that take?
Oh, they can eat some good food coming up. Again, once they're checked out and everything's stable. But tonight they're going to eat well.
Wild. They're spraying it down. Explain why.
Just keep for safety reasons and gas reasons, and kind of get everything washed off, if you will, because now the crew, the astronauts, are going to come out. So. Yeah, so you can see them, just fresh water. They're just washing it all down.
Hang with us, Doc. Yes, hang with us, Doctor, if you can. Colonel MacArthur out there as well. Stay with us.
Freedom, the crew is working on side hatch.
Say that again, Mark. 2 minutes.
Expect hatch open.
All right, so 2 minutes until the hatch is about to open here. You can see on that vessel that has 40 folks or so, 3 people there who are about to open it. Let's listen into SpaceX here and NASA as it is the final moments until this hatch opens. The ladder stands alongside, and we watch and wait with anticipation.
This is a pretty exciting moment coming up. We are working to open the side hatch. One thing that may not be obvious from, just looking at the spacecraft here is that this side hatch that we're about to open, the last time it was open was when this spacecraft was at the launch pad. This side hatch is what is used for initial capsule ingress and final capsule egress, but all comings and goings from the spacecraft while it is on board the space station are from the forward hatch, which is located at the top of the spacecraft under that nose cone. So this is a pretty exciting moment because it will be the crew's first breath of fresh air since boarding their ships at the start of their journeys last year.
And the very first person that will have the opportunity to say hello to the crew once that hatch is open is a SpaceX medical recovery personnel representative. Then we'll see procedures take place to remove the footrests of Dragon. That will just help the recovery personnel get a little bit more room to access the crew and help get them out of the spacecraft.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Safety is, once again, top priority here, and removing those footrests from all 4 seats will be helpful as a SpaceX recovery team member will actually go into the capsule, into Dragon Freedom to help the crew members unbuckle and stand up, and essentially we'll also see a fun little slide be put in place to help the crew members exit the spacecraft safely. So yeah, we're going to remove all 4 of those footrests to basically give a little bit more working room inside the spacecraft.
Remove the footrest, they say. The moment coming any moment now. We were told just a couple minutes out until that hatch opens. Our Brian Enton on the ground for us at the Kennedy Space Center in Florida. Brian, this was the moment that many have been waiting for gosh, several months.
Yeah, this has all really gone off without a hitch so far, which has been incredible to see, Blake. Look at this. Now we've got a close-up view here. This is going to happen here within, I would say, the next 30 seconds. They're going to open the door here if it goes the way it has in other... Yeah, here we go. You can see they're going for the handle right now. What's going to happen when the astronauts come out, there's actually like a medical room right there on the ship that they go to, I've learned. And then they are taken to shore, and they'll be flown on a NASA jet to Houston, where they'll get checked out by medical personnel there. But yeah, there you go, Blake.
There
There's
you
the door
have it.
opening.
The side hatch is open for the first time since September.
The side hatch open for the first time since September. One medical personnel going in there, as we were told would happen. There are 40 or so members on that recovery vessel.
That will help
the commander, Nick Hague, expected to be the first one out. Sonny Williams, Butch Wilmore, of course, on board. Alexander Gorbanov as well. And it looks. I mean, look, come on, it's 2025. What's an event without taking out the iPhone and snapping a picture? We've already had dolphins out in the water today trying to get a first row view of this. So why not that, Brian?
Frame around the side hatch.
I mean, unbelievable. And you think about what this was all white when you see it in all the pictures. The Dragon, what it went through coming in. You can see all the outside, the exterior now, 3,500 degrees. So the outside's almost like torched. The inside temperature stays very, very steady with all the technology they have. And all indications are these astronauts are doing just fine inside. Obviously, we heard the colonel explaining that after being in space for 286 days, there's going to be an adjustment period. They're probably not going to let them stand on their own when they come out. They're going to sort of pull them out. But it's about to happen here.
Colonel MacArthur, if you're with me still, what's this moment like from the astronauts' perspective? You're back. You know you're safe. You've seen folks. And they're there to help. What's it like in this moment for these astronauts?
Well, Blake, one of the really fun things is that you're seeing people that are different than the ones that you've been living with for months. And so, it's really nice to just have a little bit of variety. But also it is absolutely delightful to feel the what I like to call the texture of the real world.
What do you mean by that?
You feel a breeze, and they're going to feel
the texture of the real world. What's that like? What do you mean by that?
Well, I mean, so when you're in your spaceship, it's extremely comfortable, but it's still the environment is very stable. The temperature ranges from about 72 to 78 degrees. Very low humidity. You don't go out and feel the sun. You don't feel the wind in your face. You don't smell like the smells coming off the Gulf of America in this case. And so you're suddenly awash in the sense of being home.
As a parent, Colonel. Oh, and here we go, live look.
See Crew 9, some
Let's
happy
listen.
waves, smiles all around back on Earth.
I was going to ask you, Colonel, as a parent, you wonder if this inspires a generation, and that'll understand, man, we can do whatever we want.
Blake, my wife, before becoming a NASA executive, was a kindergarten teacher. And she used to tell me that the things that always excited her students were dinosaurs and astronauts. And so as a dinosaur astronaut myself now, I think I have a special way with young people.
Oh, no, I wouldn't call yourself a dinosaur astronaut. You're definitely an astronaut, though. It is remarkable as we watch this. The astronauts set to exit the space capsule. If you are just joining us here on NewsNation, it's Splashdown just about 45 minutes ago in the Gulf of America, west of Tallahassee, Florida. It went from basically 17,000 miles per hour to skydiving with parachutes. It then splashed down into the water, bobbed there for about a half an hour or so, and there was a surreal moment. All of this is surreal, really. But especially one where the dolphins were surrounding this vessel. The astronauts didn't know it at the time, of course, but I guarantee you they'll know it at some point here in the upcoming hours. This capsule was then brought onto a vessel, a rescue vessel with some 40 folks on there, meant to help them, all specialized, all there for a varying reason, one way or the next. And these astronauts, for about the last 45 minutes or so, have just had to hang out until this moment. We learned that they were basically taking the shoe rests out, foot rests out, to give them a little bit more space. And then they will come out one by one as we watch here on NewsNation. Dr. David Newman is with us again, former deputy director over at NASA. They're coming out any moment now, Doctor.
They are. They're giving them the boards. They're going to come out, and can't wait to see the astronauts welcome home. And also a big shout out to the whole SpaceX crew, some NASA colleagues on board. It's a team. It takes a team. And look at them all working, and the medical docs are checking them out, talking to them now, and they're going to kind of slide out on a like a bat carrier, you know.
Yeah, and when you say they're giving them the boards, explain that, please.
Well, they're just did you see those black? You're watching it live, just like you see those black boards. That they're just going to slide those in horizontally. The crew are going to come out of their seats, and they're kind of sitting back in their seats. They're nice and comfortable seats. They can take a lot of G's, put the footrest off, and then the astronauts are going to go right horizontal on the boards, and then they'll help them out.
Huh? Kind of like a shoehorn, I guess. Doctor, I was saying it's kind of like a shoehorn, right? It sort of helps you get in and get out if you're in a tight space.
I guess so.
But so we're going to watch them one by one. I believe it's Nick Hague, who is the lead astronaut in this case, and then Sonny Williams and Butch Wilmore will be making their movements out of that as well. We see a handful of folks in the frame here. What sort of? I know you don't know who exactly they are, but generally speaking, what are each of them trying to accomplish in this moment?
Yeah, I do know some of them. One of them is my former student. So
there you go.
So
proud moment for you, I'm sure. But what are they trying to accomplish here? Just beyond the obvious.
Yeah, just safety. Again, welcome home. Just one step at a time. Now they're going to take their time, be very deliberate, get them situated, and just let them come out. And like I said, the astronauts they just can't wait to see the ship. They can't wait to breathe fresh air. And there's no hurrying this though. They're doing it. They'll be out just in a few moments here. We get all of them out, but just one at a time. Get everyone situated, and then get them out.
And afterwards, when we were watching all of this, we saw the size of this assist ship or a rescue ship, however you want to characterize it. It wasn't small; it was big, and I got to imagine there's a lot of rooms and a lot of resources on there. Where do they go from here after they sort of leave the frames of the camera?
150 research experiments and investigations.
Well, so SpaceX has in charge of the operations right now because it's a Dragon, and get the astronauts safe, and then they'll be flown. They'll take them actually. Then NASA will take over and fly them to Houston to Ellington Field, and then the Johnson Space Center. So that's where the astronauts go after here out on the Florida coast, and then they'll go home tonight to Johnson Space Center.
Wow.
And then they'll go home. They'll go home to their homes and their families.
Yeah,
work is almost done here.
They'll get to clock out soon enough, I guess. My goodness. Colonel, who, if you're still with us, Colonel Bill MacArthur. When you ended your missions and you got out like these astronauts, what was top of mind for you?
Well, Blake, when I returned from the space station, we landed on the steppes of Kazakhstan. And so I knew it was going to be a few hours there. Wait.
Yep,
Let me stop.
Let's listen live. Let's listen live.
We can see folks on board clapping as our first crew member.
And that is NASA astronaut Nick Hague, commander of Crew 9. Now out of Crew Dragon Freedom. Some smiles, thumbs up, and a wave. Can't get any better than that.
Yeah, that is one happy camper, that's for sure. As we said before, it is standard procedure for all of our long-duration crew members to receive assistance upon egressing from the spacecraft. We basically help them move off of the recovery deck and into the private medical quarters for their initial consultation with the SpaceX flight surgeon. So we'll see that take place for all 4 of our crew members today.
Colonel Johnson, I was asking you, as Nick Hague, the first the first astronaut, the lead there, the commander of this mission, taken off with a wave and a thumbs up. What was top of mind for you? If you could finish there and sort of.
And we are standing by for the next crew member to.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you next. When are we going to see the next one?
Well, Blake, until we see that head come out, I'll try to slip in a word or two, but be mindful of what's really important. Again, it's how quickly can you get back to something of a little bit of a normal life? How quickly can the doctors be done with you and you can hopefully get back and see your family? And so my family was back in Moscow waiting for me. And it took about 4 hours for us to get back there, and so fortunately I was able to get on a satellite phone and talk to my wife from the landing.
Next up, out of the capsule, we expect cosmonaut.
So this is Alexander Gorbunov, the second member of that crew. Let's listen live.
Space alongside NASA astronaut Nick Hague.
Looks like we're getting some cheers and clapping on board as Alexander is slid down the little ramp and placed into the mobility aid. Once again, big smile.
Visor up, a smile, and a wave. So those were the 2 crew members who came back with Sonny Williams and Butch Wilmore. They first went up to space in a Boeing capsule, the Starliner. That was early June 5th, 2014. It launched with the 2. A day later, June 6th, that Boeing Starliner docked on its second attempt at the International Space Station. There was a problem, though, and it was a big one. 5 of the 28 thrusters malfunctioned. They were trying to figure out what was going on and how to fix the thing. Keep in mind, as you might imagine, these were the smartest minds in the world, but then there were helium leaks. Fast forward, they realized those astronauts weren't coming down anytime soon. And here we are after an 8-day mission that was supposed to be more than 9 months later, as we watch and listen live.
All of our Crew 9 crew egress or exit from the spacecraft.
We are standing by for the next crew member to egress or exit Crew Dragon Freedom following the splashdown not even an hour ago at 2:57 p.m. Pacific time.
And so here's our first visual. Sonny Williams, Butch Wilmore.
The recovery operations down pretty quick at this point.
Yeah, it's
recovery operations down pretty quick at this point, SpaceX says. You might imagine that after getting the first 2 out, they want to make sure everything is okay with Sonny and Butch. Sonny Williams, 59 years old, born in Ohio, lived in Needham, Massachusetts, a graduate of the U.S. Naval Academy. Butch Wilmore, 62, from Kentucky. He was the captain of his college football team there at Tennessee Tech University. Both went on to do spectacular and remarkable things, as you very well know. And this might be the most remarkable moment of them all.
Dragon had an on-time splashdown. Looks like we're getting our next crew member here. That is none other than Sunny Williams. Big smile, big waves. She, like her other crew members, now will be assisted onto the mobility aid.
There we have it, some waves, some thumbs up, and some smiles.
A smile and a wave as Sunny Williams is now off that capsule. Dr. Newman, my team told me you were clapping when you watched that.
That leaves NASA.
I'm clapping. Sunny's a dear friend, and welcome home. She's a Massachusetts astronaut as well. I have to.
Need a mask.
So good to see her. So good to see her.
She's a friend of yours, you say. Tell me about her as we await Butch Wilmore. And here, actually, hold that thought for a second.
The spacecraft.
And there we go. Butch Wilmore, 2 thumbs up. Why not? As there's claps, and he is on his way now into the very, very capable hands of SpaceX and NASA and the folks who helped bring him home. Let's go around the table one more time. Dr. Newman, you were telling me that you were friends with Sunny Williams. Now that she is home and Butch Wilmore is home, the relief that you have tonight from your friend.
Yeah, absolutely. Welcome home to all 4 of our astronauts and Sunny and Butch. So wonderful to see them here back on Spaceship Earth. They've had a great mission. But I know their family and friends can't wait to see them. They'll go through medical testing. They'll do actually a few more experiments. We'd like to get astronauts right when they land so we can test them. We test them out. How are they doing? How's their stability? So we always do science. And so right when they land here, the next few hours, they'll be tested out. We can always collect more data and see how they're doing. These long duration missions really give us an insight, into the astronauts' physiology and what changes they've gone through in space, and then how they're readapting back to Earth, to 1G.
Former NASA Deputy Administrator Dr. David Newman, I thank you so much for your time and insight on a remarkable moment. It was great to hang with you here for a bit. Catch you soon. Dr. Newman, thank you very much. Over to Bill MacArthur, former NASA astronaut. What a moment we just witnessed, sir.
Absolutely, Blake, and it just warms my heart to see Sunny and Butch back, especially Sunny. In a perfect world, I was scheduled to be the commander of Sunny's first mission, but the shuttle fleet grounding got extended for another year in 2005. She and I trained together for months and months and months, and spent a lot of time in Russia together. I just know her husband, Mike, is just absolutely thrilled as can be to see that she's back safe on the ground, as are we all. And I was actually talking to one of Butch's neighbors the other day as we were on a bicycle ride, and the folks in his church could not be just more excited that they'll hopefully see him back in church on Sunday.
Hopefully, that would be fantastic. Bill MacArthur, former NASA astronaut. Again, thank you for the time and insight. We appreciate it, sir. Out over now to Brian Enton, live at Kennedy Space Center. Brian, you and I have witnessed a lot in that state in one form or another. We ain't ever seen anything like this.
Yeah, what an exciting day, Blake. To think that I was standing out here in June when all of this first went down, when they weren't able to come back, when there were those maintenance issues with the Starliner, and now this ending is just incredible. The way it splashed down right on time. Everything went down without a hitch. To see them waving inside when they first put the camera inside the capsule and then when they pulled them out one by one. All the astronauts appear to be healthy, be checked out now, taken to Houston for more medical testing. But certainly the end of a long, complicated journey. Exciting to think about these folks will be able to be home with their families very soon, Blake.
A long, complicated journey is certainly one way to put it. Our Brian Enton. There off the coastline in Florida. Brian, appreciate you as always. Thank you very much. With me now, Mick Mulvaney, NewsNation contributor, former Trump White House chief of staff. Mick, hello. You've been sitting here watching this with me. This will reach the Oval Office. This is a great moment for this country.
Yeah, and I absolutely believe the president was watching it. We used to do this. Anytime something like this happened, you'd watch it. I remember when the church in France, when Notre Dame burnt, we actually watched that live on Air Force One. So, yeah, the president is a TV junkie. He was watching this every single minute. It's a great moment. It's lovely. And the Dolphins were fantastic.
The Dolphins were fantastic, right? I mean, think about how remarkable that moment was. You say the president was watching. You think we hear from him tonight on this?
Oh, probably. In fact, I was checking the Twitter feed to see if he'd said anything yet. I wouldn't be surprised if he said something.
Not there yet. All right, Nick Mulvaney, thank you, sir.
You got it, man.
Do we have that dolphin video, by the way? I'd love to show it. Because if you were watching with us at about 6:20 or so, the capsule had just come down. And there was all this intrigue. What are they doing inside? How are they doing? What comes next? And you can't write this stuff. You can't script it. I'm telling you, I've lived in Florida for, 25 years of my life. You see dolphins all the time. Look at that image right there. As the astronauts were just sitting inside, waiting for what comes next. A pod of dolphins saying, you know what? We want a front row seat too. It has been a remarkable journey for Sonny Williams and Butch Wilmore. It was supposed to be 8 days, turned into more than 9 months. And when you think about your day and what sort of we go through with our jobs, right? Maybe you had a rough one. Maybe you complain. Maybe you say, you know what? I'm not sure we can get this done. Today is a day that makes you sit back and think, you know what? We got the best in